Welcome to Growth Solutions. I'm your host, Bruce May. We have a good friend of mine, a regular guest to the show, David Dodd. He's come back to tell us more about his work with the International Sustainable Resilience Center. So welcome to the show, David. I think we wanted to just catch up with what's going on with your work with the public-private partnerships. So what's new in that world?
Well, there's a lot of things happening, of course, and as we all painfully know, COVID-19 has turned the global economy upside down. Specializing in economic resilience and economic recovery, we immediately took a look at how these changes, these massive changes that are being dictated by COVID-19 are changing the economies around the world, and most importantly, what is needed to adapt to those changes. Because resilience really is another word for adaptation. So it's adapting to the challenges that are being given to us in any situation, whether it's a natural disaster, man-made disaster, or a pandemic such as COVID-19.
You know, you've done a lot of work with other national disasters and hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, but this is the first time we've really had a major pandemic.
We've had some pandemics, but none of them were anywhere close to this extent. The closest thing to this was the Spanish flu back in 1918, so over 100 years ago, and the world was quite a different place then. Now, with global trade and with global transportation, things like COVID-19 can spread much more quickly and much more devastatingly than even the Spanish flu, although it was obviously very devastating. But what we've done, Bruce, is we've taken a look at what are the physical changes that need to be made, the changes in what we call the built environment. Everything from schools having to be larger to accommodate social distancing, to obviously hospitals and healthcare, the real transformation of businesses and daily life. To digital. We all live digitally now. And what do we need to do to adapt to that? And especially the economies, what do they need to do to adapt? Manufacturing, distribution, all of these things are going to require substantial changes. Facilities, equipment, the way people move, transportation of goods and also of people. So we looked at all that and we documented somewhere in the area of $10 trillion that will need to be spent on infrastructure and systems, and that includes buildings and facilities, to adapt to this around the world. That's a huge order, of course. So we worked on developing a way to attract investment dollars from the private sector. Again, public-private partnerships are dependent upon private sector investment. So we looked at how we could accommodate the risk factors inherent in that and hopefully lower the risk through a variety of mechanisms so that the private sector can be enticed to invest in these types of projects and make a decent return, as well as helping again, this really unprecedented situation.
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm just curious. So how COVID-19 is playing out is different in every industry sector. And I know you've identified 9 sectors that you've been looking at. Can you give us some examples of some public-private partnerships, and whether it would be globally across all these sectors or might be individual to certain sectors that people are thinking about trying to get some serious investment into right now?
Yeah, and of course, healthcare. Let's just start with healthcare because
that's the obvious one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the obvious one, and the need is massive. And even in the U.S. now, they're talking about, we've had, as we sadly know, somewhat of a resurgence in COVID-19 cases, and there are healthcare facilities in some of the less populated states like North Dakota that are just completely out of room. So, we're hoping this goes away, but we all know that even if this is able to be treated with vaccine, the door's been opened now, and we are subject to more of these. And so we need to be prepared, and healthcare facilities in particular need, much more emergency room and intensive care space. They're going to need much more personal protective equipment. They're going to need much more, many more ventilators and all of those different adjustments that need to take place. And, those can all be accomplished through public-private partnerships. Many healthcare facilities around the world, and even in the U.S., there are many healthcare facilities that are publicly owned. So attracting private investment, both direct investment in the facilities and goods that are going to need to be made, but also concessions, which are operating agreements, where the private sector comes in and takes over operation with the hope of operating the facilities, more cost effectively. And those are all things that are going to being looked at right now. Not going to be looked at. They're being looked at right now.
Yeah.
But even in areas such as, again, information technology, increasing broadband access has become increasingly critical to accomplish the world. And so looking at innovative ways to structure public-private partnerships to address, that, and that impacts everything else. Talk about medicine. Well, telemedicine could reduce some of the load on the medical facilities by treating people, when it's possible at home.
Right.
Telelearning, education, again, until schools can expand to allow classroom learning, which is what we all want, but, schools are going to need to be greatly expanded. And until then, we need, bandwidth in the home for these students, for these children. So all of these needs are significant, but again, using public-private partnerships and implementing the people first principles, which is, Bruce, is very important, which attempt to emulate the Sustainable Development Goals in providing equity and fairness, transparency, sustainability and resilience, and also fit for purpose and viability, are all really critical, especially today when we look a lot more at the way people are included or not included throughout society. And that's not just here, that's around the world. So we're really trying to meet this challenge head on and meet it in a way that is equitable and fair, but that also provides real solutions, because we have a real problem and we're becoming more and more aware of it.
Yeah, right. So I know you're work closely with United Nations Center for Performance Excellence, or for excellence in PPPs. There's 8 organizations altogether, I believe.
There are 8 specialist centers that all are affiliated with the International PPP Center of Excellence, which is under the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, but it's global. It has a directive party called the Working Party that directs the centers. 84 nations are members of that. So yeah, and the other specialist centers, and thank you for bringing that up, Bruce, it's very important. The other centers specialize in different areas. So one specializes in water and sanitation. There are 2 that specialize in transportation. There's one that specializes in smart and sustainable cities. So each of them can bring their expertise to the table to help implement these types of partnerships. There's one in Japan that deals with building capacity, which is critical, that we build capacity for local and regional, provincial, state, as we say in the United States, governments to be able to effectively implement these, because we can't do all needed. I mean, there are hundreds of these that are needed to be implemented around the world. So we can build capacity for local and provincial and national governments to do these things, all the better.
Right, but resiliency is really kind of ties it all together, doesn't it? So that your organization specifically plays an important role when you start looking at something like COVID-19.
Yeah, the adaptation, resilience and adaptation are really interchangeable, because to be able to better withstand a destructive event, and that's the standard definition of resilience, you have to adapt. and you have to be able to do the things that you need to do to best cope with that situation.
Right.
So yes, we recognize that we play a very important role. We're very humbled by that, but we're also very, very determined to move forward and implement this multifaceted approach where we're utilizing multilateral organizations such as the World Bank and regional development banks, the World Association of Public-Private Partnership Units and Professionals, which is the industry standard association, to really move in a bold manner in putting together as many of these successfully that can start to make change happen.
I know a lot of the changes and the adaptations are occurring organically as people just try to figure out, how do they adapt on their own. But your organization and all of the ones that work together in the United Nations have the potential to provide insights and learning and training around best practices. And I think maybe we can get into this deeper in the second half of the show, but you've got a new project, from what I understand, that's going to be addressing that. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's going to address all of those through broadband, building capacity, and also building the ability of businesses and organizations in these communities to transform themselves.
Right. Because a lot of this is about adapting to the digital future, which we've been forced farther into faster because of COVID-19, right?
Well, and I've said that because you have a background in digital media, Bruce, and we years ago when we worked together on a regular basis, we saw what was coming. We just didn't know when.
Yeah.
And this has exponentially accelerated that process of transforming from manual to digital. Now, we never foresaw that would be necessitated because, basically we're supposed to stay away from each other. But it's a reality. Mm-hmm. And we know, and you and I have also talked about this, we know that some things will return to the way they were before. But I think that digital communication, I think that digital learning, digital medicine, digital purchasing of goods and services, to a great extent is going to stay. And in fact, I just heard yesterday that the company Dropbox, which is famous for cloud, one of the early cloud computing services that would allow you to store documents in the cloud, they basically said all of our employees, they all want to work from home. We're just going to tell them to work from home.
Yeah. So
that those have ripple effects, Bruce. Because if everyone, and not everyone's going to, let's make that clear. There's still companies and organizations that want people in the office. But for those that don't, that's going to create ripple effects in the office space, in services, anything from, cafes that operate within office buildings. And all of these things are going to need to be adapted. Now, what we are seeing on the other side of that coin is a vast ramping up of online commerce, right? So take a shopping mall, and you're going, oh my gosh, every shopping mall in the country is going to close. Well, they may close, some of their retail stores may close, but guess what? You have an Amazon that comes in, or another electronic retailer that comes in, and they need warehouse space. So you convert part of that mall to warehouse space.
Yeah, and I've heard that Amazon is thinking about buying some of those malls themselves. So
they are. Yeah. They are. In fact, they've announced a couple already. And so, we underestimate our innate ability as a species to adapt.
Yeah.
And it's not always, pleasant. When we went from horses and mules to cars, the buggy whip manufacturers had a pretty tough go of it. In the manufacturers. But a lot of those did what? They adapted to producing automobiles and automobile parts. So we have to think of this transformation in that way. And certainly we didn't want this to happen, but it has. So let's deal with it, and let's find ways to creatively adapt just as we always have as human beings.
Well, tell us, before we break, tell us the name of this program initiative, and then we'll get into it on the other side of the break. What is it called?
Yeah, it's called Imago, and Imago is a word that means to take action, to move quickly. So we thought, what better word than Imago to describe this project? And it's going to be in Mexico for a variety of reasons, and we'll get into that if people stay tuned and watch the second half, because it's really that we understand we have to move and we have to act quickly. And this is about digital transformation, which we discussed, and helping at least 250 businesses in a municipality in Mexico transform themselves to digital, and along the way helping community organizations, community institutions such as education and healthcare also adapt.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back after these messages. This is Bruce May. On my show, I talk a lot about how to build an automated marketing system to capture and nurture more leads and help you grow your business. You do this by entering contacts into the system where they can be nurtured by sharing content that helps educate them about their needs and your solutions. When you nurture leads this way, you drive more business into your sales funnel and ultimately close more deals. To do this, you need an automated marketing platform, and Keep has one of the best ones I've seen. It's easy to use and even comes with a campaign builder that has a drag and drop canvas so you can easily drag key elements onto the canvas and link them up. The best part about Keep is that it starts at only about $100 per month, so any business can afford to use it. If you want to begin using automated marketing techniques to grow your business, go to growsolutionstv.com/keep and fill out the form. We will put you into contact with a Keep solution provider that can help you get started. That's growsolutionstv.com/keep. Get started today and grow your business to new levels with Keep, the automated marketing platform. Welcome back to Grow Solutions. We're here with David Dodd, and we're interviewing him about a new program called Imago. Let's get into it, David. Cut. Okay.
Okay, you ready for me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to Sustainable Resilience. I'm your host, David Dodd, and we're flipping the switch this time. Bruce May, who's a dear friend and has his own show, Grow Solutions, is interviewing me about the adaptation to COVID-19 and an exciting project initiative that my center is launching, the International Sustainable Resilience Center in Mexico.
Yeah, well, thank you, David. So we talked a lot about the impact of COVID-19, which is driving a lot of the thinking and actions going on today in your world. But Imago is fascinating. So this is a program that addresses specifically the digital transformations which have been pushed forward faster because of COVID-19. So how is this program going to work, and what's it going to do?
Well, it's a really unique program, and as you know, Bruce, we've talked about this in the first segment. My center specializes in public-private partnerships to enhance resilience. So in looking at that and looking at this broader initiative to do a pilot project that could show the value of this transformation and the value of using public-private partnership. So what we did is we created two separate supporting initiatives. And the first is called Imago, which is the Digital Transformation Initiative. And what we've done is we've identified an internationally known specialist in digital transformation, partnered him with an organization, a nonprofit that also specializes in digital transformation on a broader scale. And we are going to choose between 200 and 250 businesses in a city just outside of Mexico City, in the state of Mexico. Mexico has the country of Mexico, the city of Mexico City, and the state of Mexico, and they're all separate. But the state of Mexico, there's a community of about 500,000 people, Tijuchan, that has been chosen to be the initial community. We're really excited to be working with them in identifying businesses that want to transform their business model, and then bringing in specialists to help them do that. So it's a very hands-on situation, but in the process of doing this, and this is really important, we're going to build out a platform that businesses around the world can use with obviously with some assistance from some expertise, but the platform can be used as the template for them to transform themselves. So we're really excited about that. We're going to result in a new product, a new way to help businesses do this that can be used anywhere.
So the key really is for the businesses, from their point of view, is to get up to speed with digital technology and best practices, which are to some extent universal and ubiquitous, but then there's also, in some cases, they're industry specific. So are you going to be addressing and measuring metrics associated with that expertise directly with each business?
We have two measurement systems. We have a measurement system that shows the progress that these businesses are making, and we have a specialist who's going to be implementing that as the transformation. And very important, Bruce, is not only industry specific, but country and culturally specific, because different countries have different norms, different ways of doing business, and you have to be sensitive to that and help those businesses transform in a way that they'll still be user friendly, they'll still be customer friendly. And the word transformation has a lot of meaning here, because literally going from Sears, God bless Sears, they're gone now, but Sears, where people walked in and bought something, if they're in retail, to Amazon, where everything's online. And maybe some of these businesses will become suppliers to Amazon and others, others in that space, Alibaba and others. And for services and products, manufacturing, there's small manufacturers that need to be able to connect directly with their customers and supply their goods and services directly, utilizing information technology for everything from shipping to tracking invoices. And some businesses are already doing this, but what we want to do is, wherever they are in the cycle, we want them to move to 100% ability to operate digitally. So that's a tall order. It's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And side with that, in parallel with that, we're implementing a public-private partnership in which we will increase the broadband capacity by installing new broadband, new fiber, new Wi-Fi towers to basically provide anyone in the city with the broadband that they need to be able to do everything from work from home to have their kids go to school online. It's all interconnected too, Bruce. And
right.
So doing the public-private partnership is absolutely important, because you can do one or the other, but if you don't do both, you don't have both the capacity and teach people how to use it, then you're wasting your time and effort.
Right.
So we're doing this in parallel. It's going to be a year-long project. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But again, we know COVID is going to be with us a long time, and so we want to do this as a pilot that can show how this system can work and can show that it can produce results.
Yeah. So you're getting funding now for the initial pilot, which is 12 months long, and then you're going simultaneously for long-term funding, right?
Yeah, well, we're seeking funding for the 12-month project.
Okay.
And one of the things that I will ask the audience that sees this is, if you're interested in learning more, please contact us. The total budget for this, Bruce, is substantial. It's $550,000.
Just for the first year.
System that can be used around the world.
Right.
So the benefit of this is going to far outweigh
right.
cost. So anyone that is a socially conscious investor, or a foundation or a corporate giving unit that really wants to make a difference, please give us a call.
We talked about this a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and it reminded me a lot of Baldrige. Baldrige was a performance excellence program initiated by the Commerce Department, One of the big differences, though, with Baldrige and what Imago is in their approach is Baldrige could not be prescriptive, and I felt that was always a big handicap. So they couldn't, for example, go into a business and say, well, you know, you're Exxon and Chevron's doing all these great things and using all these software tools. They couldn't say a word about that. But Imago can be prescriptive in the sense they can actually make recommendations about specific platforms, you know, things that everybody uses like Zoom, and bring people up to their skills so they know how to use them. And even going down into unique industry platforms. But have I got that right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and that's part of the service that's provided is saying, okay, you know, maybe you're using Slack and you need to use Monday.com because it's more applicable to your business model.
Yeah, right. Well,
in some cases, we're going to look at the business model and say,
yeah, right.
Well, you may need to tweak your business model because you're going to have to reach, more and more people virtually.
Right, and of course there are examples of whole new categories of business models like Airbnb, and I mean the level of innovation that's happening is pretty dramatic right now. So it's a fascinating space. I mean, I think we're finally living in the future that you and I've been dreaming about for 20 years. So I'm happy to see it happening.
Don't like the reason,
no.
But the outcome is, and this is the glass half full.
Right.
The outcome is going to be, we're going to see massive changes that can make life better for everyone.
Yeah, the economic development.
That's the hopeful view, right?
Right. Yes.
They're going to make life better for people. They're going to make life society more equitable. They're going to protect the environment more. All of these things can come out of this. There's a commercial that I saw, and it's good that I don't like to cite the source of the commercial because I can't remember it. But it said, we're going to look back and remember when everything stopped, and when everything stopped is the exact perfect time for things to change.
Right. Yeah. I kind of feel like we're at the beginning of the automobile age here. It's 1920, and it's finally going to break out. So it's going to be an exciting time in the next decade for sure. So I think we've run out of time here. I want to thank you for being on the show today with me, and please come back to Growth Solutions again. And keep us informed of everything you're doing. Thank you, David.
Well, thank you, Bruce.